everyone. If you can see right here, the sun is coming in. It's like peeking through because I'm filming this early in the morning. So it's kind of annoying. So if you see that, sorry. But I am doing my August wrap up. I don't want to be long with this. I tried filming this before and it was super long because I wanted to talk about the movies that I watched, but I'll just do like a quick overview of like my thoughts on it if I wanted to. But that's pretty much it. I just don't want to be too long with this video. So I ended up reading I ended up doing a lot of rereading this month. So I ended up, where is it? I ended up doing like at least 10 rereads of books that I have on my shelves. So a lot of them were Lisa Kleypas, Candace Hearn, and then the one was Claire Sanctuary. So I'll show the ones I read. Then Came You. That one there, I'll say like I like it less the more I reread it. It's not as good of a book, especially because the heroine kind of like frustrates me a little bit. And also like the hero, like at the beginning, he very much was someone I was not a fan of. I wasn't really rooting for him. And then toward the end, it kind of like shifted and got better. His character and stuff. He wasn't really a great guy. I will say that. I didn't really think he was such a great guy. And it wasn't until like the end where it was like, it was shifted and different. So, but I went in because I had some little marks that I had at the top of my books. And so over time, like, I don't want the books to end up becoming damaged because I have those little tabs in where the spine is. So I put them over to the side, and those are like easier on the pages. So I decided to do that. And then It Happened One Autumn. I still think it's a 3-star for me because I have the original copy, and I will say, like, I believe the audiobook, maybe the physical copy too, like when they re-released it, had gotten edited by Lisa Kleypas. She had basically edited the one scene where Lillian Bowman and Marcus, they have, sex for the first time, and she was definitely tipsy. Like, she was definitely tipsy when they, had sex for the first time. And so a lot of people were like, oh, he took advantage of her and all that stuff. And yeah, I'll say, like, when the first time I read that one years ago, I was not a fan of that scene. I would have preferred it if she was sober when he went and, had sex with her first time. So I'll just say that. It's still not my favorite of that series. And also, Lillian annoys me. Her character is just so frustrating. And then she's really insecure too. Like, she's very insecure, and it's not a good look. It's not a good look. And then Devil in Winter, of course, I still enjoy it. I will say over time, it's not as good as I felt like 20 years ago when I first read it, but I still enjoy it. I still enjoy seeing Sebastian St. Vincent like shift like over time and change. But I will say, like, he did shift very quickly, when it came to like Evie and being there for her. But it's still a good book. I still enjoy it. When I was rereading it, I still enjoyed it. Scandal in Spring, kind of like still have the same feelings for it as I did before. I gave it like 4 stars before. A Wallflower Christmas, that has to do with the Bowman's brother. He's American because the Bowmans were American that went to Europe to go find husbands. And then I reread Candace Hearn. Now, Candace Hearn, I don't believe that she is published anymore, like traditionally published, but she does indie publishing. But I haven't read her in a while. And that series there, it was like the Merry Widows Club, I think that was called. I still like the series. I will say the first one is not my favorite. It's not my favorite of the series. It's okay. It's okay of a book. But I still reread it, and I'm like, I'm still keeping it. The second one I'd say is probably my favorite, and then I like the third one. So Just One of Those Flings. That one, that's an older, I totally forgot about that one too, now that I think about it. I did like Reverse Age Gap. I totally forgot about that book. But in that one right there, the heroine is older than the hero. I believe the hero is like 25, and I think the heroine is like maybe like 35. She might be like 30 or 35. I don't think she's that much older than him, but still, it's like during that time, like, you know, usually older women didn't go for younger guys, you know. But I still like that one. It's so cute. And then I like Lady Be Bad because the one guy is a rake, and the heroine, she was married to, I think, a pastor, and she was a widow. And so he basically is like trying to find like her pleasure and all that stuff. I do like that one. And then the anthology I have where it has Candace Hearn in there. That one is like another short story. It's like a novella that was a part of that series there, the Merry Widows. So I still like those books. I still enjoy them. So I put some like newer tabs in them to kind of like, you know, all the little favorite spots I like of the book. And then of course I went and I put in little tabs for Sanctuary, because I'm rereading the what do you even call it, series again. I'm rereading the Kindled series again. So, you know, I wanted to go and put that stuff in. And so for new books I did not read a lot of books this month. I've been watching TV, more like TV or movies lately. Also, I've been really slowly getting through my books. I've been like slowing my pace up a lot when it comes to reading. So the first one I read this month that was new was Ever Yours, Annabelle. This is the Rescued from Ruin prequel. I think it's Elisa. I think her name is Elisa Braden. Yeah, I think it's Elisa Braden. So we've got the characters of Annabelle, and I believe his name is Robert. And let me look at my Goodreads. I believe his name is Robert. And so she, like, when you open up the book, it's showing like from the past first. And so Annabelle's like 13 at the time, and she has a crush on Robert. You know, she's had a crush on Robert since she was a little girl. And yeah, his name's Robert. And so she's basically spying on Robert and her brother, her older brother. I think they were swimming, and so she was spying on, you know, to see Robert. Obviously she didn't want to see her brother, but, you know, she's spying. She's up in like this tree area, and they end up discovering that she's there, and so they kind of like scold her, like her brother scolds her, and she gets upset. You could see like she was, you know, getting upset. And so Robert felt bad, and he's like, hey, you know, just lay off, don't be so mean to her. And so he's kind of like trying to let her down, like, hey, you know, I know you like me, kind of thing. I know you like me, and it's never going to happen, kind of thing. And so it upsets her, of course, you know, poor 13-year-old heart, you know. And so she kind of like walks away and ends up stumbling near a cliff area, and Robert ends up saving her because she starts to fall. So he ends up saving her, but unfortunately he can't pull her up, and they end up falling together. She lands in the water. So he kind of like pushed her toward to the water area, the lake or whatever it was. And he ended up falling on rocks. So he severely like injured his hip area, I believe, or was part of his leg. And so it basically made him ineligible to be a part of the military, because he was going to join the military. He's a second son. And so it kind of made him a bit bitter. And so he basically told her when he was like in his sick bed, like, you know, stay away from me, don't talk to me again. He was like angry and bitter. And that was just heartbreaking. You could see how much she felt guilty about like the fact that she fell, you know, and he had caught her, but he wasn't able to pull her up. You know, she feels guilty about that. And that was heartbreaking, you know, just to see this 13-year-old, you know, girl has this crush on this, you know, I think he was like 16 or 17 at the time. He was like young. He wasn't that much older than her, but still like 13. You know, you're not having like a 13-year-old date a 18-year-old or 19-year-old. No, not doing that. So he's a bit bitter, and how many years go by, and he basically told his friend, which is, you know, her older brother, like, I don't want to hear her name, you know, don't discuss her with me. Very bitter, you know, bitter and angry. And so he ends up basically taking care of like his grandfather's estate, and becomes really good at like taking care of the estate. And then so his grandfather tells him, you know, he's like, hey boy, you know, you need to go and find a wife, because he's like, you know, I'm not going to be here forever. He's like, you know, I'm going to, you know, find yourself a wife. I believe he was dying. I think he was sick. And so he told him, like, you need to find a wife, you know? And so Robert's like, fine. So he decides to go to London to go and get a wife. And there's a woman who is, you know, he asks for help. She's like a matroness or whatever they call it. I think that's what it's called. It's basically, oh, what is it again? I think her husband was like a marquess, something like that, or marquis. There's two different ones. But I think it's marquess. And so she's like, oh, hey, you know, Annabelle can help you. And you could kind of like tell, like, okay, did she do that deliberately, which she basically did. So it was basically her and Robert, Annabelle and Robert, getting to know each other again like 7 years later, you know, and going from there. And then there's like a side plot of like, she's like, does some writing. I think she did some writing. And I know she did like these little characters, like she used to draw like these little animals and stuff that she would go and give to the newspaper to print. And unfortunately, somebody was like kind of like writing under her name she used, which was a male name. Someone was writing under her name, and they were doing the drawings and stuff differently. And then she's like, hey, you know, how come, you know, this is happening? And so she ends up becoming, you know, in danger, to where Robert now has to help her. So that kind of goes from there. But yeah, it definitely felt like it was more slower paced for sure. There is like gun violence in here. There is death of a loved one. I'll just say there's death of a loved one in here. There's assault, and also there's a battery of a woman. It's not her that gets battered. It's another woman that ends up getting beat up by a man. And I did feel like it was a bit drawn out a bit. Yeah, sorry about that. I felt like it was a bit drawn out. But I still enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. So the other new book I read this month is The Bad Boy Rule by Maren Moore. This one's part of the Hellcats hockey series. This is book 1. I will continue on with this series and read more books from this author because I did really like this one. I gave it 4.5 stars. So we got the character of Lennon Rousseau and Saint Devereaux. Now, Lennon is the female in the relationship. She's the female. I don't like her name. I'll just say it kind of seems like a boyish name. But anyways, so there is a domestic abuse in here and assault in here if you are like more triggered about that one. Anyways, Saint is a bit of a playboy, and in the opening part of the book, like the first chapter, I don't like when authors do this, when you go and you open up the book and you start reading and you're seeing that the hero just got done having sex with another woman. Like, it's not going to be the woman that he ends up with, and he doesn't really treat these women that great. Like, he's basically like, you know, hey, if you're willing to, you know, cuddle up to me and, you know, want to sleep with me, that's it. You know, he's like a pump and dump kind of guy, you know. There's like another term for it too, because technically he's not dating these women, he's just sleeping with them, and that's it. And I will say, ladies, you know, don't give it up on the first date, you know, or first encounter. Men don't have a lot of respect for women who, at least most men, don't have a lot of respect for women who kind of like give it up too easy, you know. It's guys like the challenge, you know. So anyways, yeah, I don't like when you have an author that kind of opens a story like that. It makes him look like a huge dick. It just really does. It makes him look like a huge dick. So he's definitely a playboy. And he also is like, his family's struggling to get by. His father got injured on the job years ago, and he wasn't able to get any workman's compensation for it, or a disability or anything like that. So he's kind of like just been wasting away, and he turned into an abuser. He started abusing his wife and started going after, you know, Saint. And so he's, you know, Saint's not in a very good family situation. And so he's a hockey player, and he's trying to, obviously, I would assume, go pro, so that way he gets enough money to where he can go and sign this, you know, contract. And you sign those contracts, you know, you can get a good amount of money. And then where he can get his mom out of that situation, because she stays. You know, she's been so, like, you know, beat down, basically, mentally and physically, that she doesn't want to leave, you know. So he's in the situation where he doesn't want to leave his mom behind, you know. He wants to protect her as much as he can. So he's in this situation too. And so Lennon, her family has money, but her father is a dick. And her mother very much is like, I'd say not really very feeling. She's a socialite. And they basically want Lennon to be the same thing. They want her to marry, you know, a wealthy guy and basically be like a, you know, stay-at-home socialite kind of thing. And Lennon doesn't want to do that. She loves figure skating, and she's hiding it from her parents. You know, her father didn't want her to continue on doing figure skating. I don't know why. It's kind of more of a rich man's sport. And so she's doing, you know, figure skating in secret. And so she ends up requesting skate time so she can go and practice, you know, all her, like, figure skating moves, whatever they're called. And so when she gets there, she realizes that Saint is on the ice with his hockey puck and hockey stick. And so she's like, hey, what are you doing here? I requested this time. And he's like, oh, you need to deal with it. And so I guess because of like some mix-up, they have to share the ice. And so they start, you know, like very much like have this antagonistic type of relationship where, You know, he's more of the grump. She's, you know, got not really sunshine, but he's definitely more of the grump, has an attitude. And so she's like, you know, oh, okay, you're going to challenge me. I'm going to do the same thing. So they kind of like play around with each other, like, you know, tease each other as sexual banter, things like that. And it gets to a point where Lennon's father is like, oh, well, why don't you go back and date Chandler again, which Chandler was her ex. And it's like, she's like, no, because Chandler cheated on me with my friend. And it's like, yeah, I wouldn't want to go back with that douchebag either. So, in order to get back at her parents, she asks Saint, like, reluctantly, she's like, can you pretend to be my boyfriend so I can piss my parents off? And so he agrees to it, but he also ends up finding out who she is and who she's related to. His father got fired from Lennon's father's company, and Lennon's father did whatever he could to not pay the workman's comp and make it sound like that, oh, he's a drunk, he came in drunk and was drinking and all that stuff, to make it to where you don't have to pay workman's compensation, because you have to pay like a fee or whatever it is. Like, it ends up like coming out of like the company's dime, you know, for workman's compensation and all that stuff. So it kind of reminds me of, it really reminded me of one of my last jobs I had. It wasn't like my last job, but it was like a job before that, where I was working for a dentist, and that woman was a see you next Tuesday. She was a mental abuser. She definitely was a mental abuser, and she would constantly attack all of the ladies, because there was a lot of us females that worked at the dentist's office. The dentist basically converted this old house, like it was like a single family house, into a dental office. And I used to work with her, and she, like I said, she was a harpy. She was so nasty. Some days she'd be nice, other days she'd be a raging bitch. And working 10 hours alongside her was torture. It was probably one of the worst jobs I've ever had. And I've worked for retail jobs, and retail jobs were shit. So if you can imagine worse than retail, that's what this was. This was worse than retail. Like I said, she was a mental abuser. She would attack us every day. If I wasn't the designated asshole that day, someone else, the receptionist, was the designated asshole that day, or the hygienist was the designated asshole that day. She would go back and forth with us constantly and just needle us and needle us and needle us. Every little thing, over and over and over. And I could not take it anymore. And one day I fucking snapped on her. You know, I snapped on her and I just started yelling back at her. And she had let me go. And I was like, hasta la vista, baby. See ya, bitch. The worst job I've ever had. That woman was a fucking horrible. I went to my school because my school had essentially assigned her to me for the job, because they did this thing called like an externship and all that stuff, where it's almost kind of like an internship, where you go in, you start working for this person. If they like you, they'll hire you on. If not, then you go out and go find another job. It would have been better for me if I just went out and tried to find another job, because I worked 5 long months for this woman, and that's what she did to me all 5 months, is treated me like shit. So I heard stories from the receptionist that she would play games with people who ended up like either getting fired or whatever it is, and they would try to go for not disability, but like unemployment. And if you get fired, normally if you get fired, you can go for unemployment. She went to the unemployment office and said all kinds of nasty stuff about this woman to where the woman wasn't able to get unemployment. And she brought another worker with her to back up, the dentist. And because everybody's afraid of that dentist, the guy, went with, the dentist just to back her up. So that way, obviously, he wouldn't get fired. This woman was a horrible person to work for. So I never, I went for not disability. I went for unemployment, but because I hadn't worked for the dentist, like, I think you had to work for like them at least 6 months or something like that in order to get like unemployment. I wasn't eligible for it, and I didn't want to fight it, because if I fought it, I knew that bitch was going to end up in the unemployment office and say all kinds of stuff about me. When the month before she had let me go, her husband came up to me and was like, oh, the dentist thinks you're doing a wonderful job and all this other stuff. Then I'm let go. I think she let me go because, one, she knew she could do the job by herself. She knew she did not need a dental assistant if she didn't need one. She knew she could do it by herself. I think there's a few reasons why she let me go. One, her husband was a professor or whatever it was, hadn't had a job in a while. And they lived up in like an expensive area in California. They lived in this expensive area where fucking celebrities live there. So, the mortgage and everything is probably high. Property taxes and all that stuff are probably super expensive. So I think she fired me because, one, her husband wasn't working and she was doing it all on her own. She was paying for all the bills and everything, and he wasn't doing anything. So I think one was because of that. Two, I ended up telling the hygienist and the receptionist secretly that I was pregnant, and that, when I reached a certain, I wanted to get to the second trimester before I told the dentist that I can't do heavy lifting, I can't do this or that because I'm pregnant. And so I think the hygienist, who's Miss Yappy, I think the hygienist told the dentist that I was pregnant. And I think that's why I was let go. I can't prove it. And of course the dentist would get in trouble for that, because you can't discriminate against people who are pregnant. So she didn't want to go and have to pay for any unemployment I would do, or if I had like medical leave and all that stuff, she didn't want to pay for it. So that's why I think she let me go. Not because I snapped at her, because, I was pregnant. She was just looking for an excuse to let me go. So that was probably the worst job I've ever had. I was in such a shitty state at that point where I was so glad when she had let me go, because I didn't want to go and have a miscarriage from the stress, So I was glad that she had let me go. I was like, good riddance, bye. I don't really care. And I had talked to the receptionist like months after, even like months and months like after she had let me go, and she had not hired a new assistant. She did not hire a new assistant. Like, it was like months and months and months, that I kept hearing from the receptionist. The receptionist like, nope, she didn't hire anybody. She didn't hire it. She's doing it all on her own. And so I'm like, what's the point? What's the point of you having an assistant if you're just going to berate them? I liked working in the back area with the lab stuff. I liked doing that. I did not like working alongside her. She was, and then after that, like I said, I had my eldest daughter at that time, and I was like, I would rather stay home and, take care of my kids. And then also with daycare being expensive, I couldn't afford to go back to work at that time. So yeah, for me, working for her, it just, when this guy had got let go, Saint's dad, I was like, oh my God, that so reminds me of that biatch that I worked for. Like I said, I can't prove anything. I can't prove that she knew. I think she did know. I can't prove that she knew, because I could have sued her ass. And like I said, I didn't want to fight unemployment. I did not want to fight it. So I was like, no. Plus also, the receptionist also told me that, because like I said, I was hearing all kinds of shit like afterwards. The receptionist also told me that the doctor, the dentist there, that she was even saying, oh, I wonder why Brandy never went for unemployment. I did go for unemployment. I didn't qualify. Because she knew she wanted to go there. She wanted to go there so she can go and berate me more, abuse me more. Because I would have told the unemployment office, she's a mental abuser. She's a mental abuser. She verbally abuses all of the staff. All of the staff that she verbally abused us. I would have told them that. Because I'd end up telling the school. Because like I said, the school kind of like puts you into a job. I went to the school and I said, take her name off. Do not subject other students to her abuse. She abuses us. And so the guy even like had told me advice on like how to handle her. He didn't get me out of the job. He just went and was like, oh, well, why don't you do this instead and do that instead? And the one time I did do the advice he told me, and one time it worked. The other times it did not work. And she even wrote like a scathing letter to the school saying that, oh, they didn't train me enough, you know? Oh, it was a scathing letter. And then she had me read it. And then she would do these performance reviews where I remember her saying all kinds of stuff to me, like harsh things that I was like, okay, I held it all in, went to the other room and started crying. She brought me to tears. And I'm not one to like go to tears that easily. I'm more tough than that. She brought me to fucking tears. Yeah. I hope she is now deceased and I want to find her grave so I could piss on it. That I hate that woman. I don't really hate a lot of people, but I hate her. I fucking hate her. Worst woman I've ever worked for in my life was that woman. Worst woman I've ever worked for. So yeah, I didn't want to fight it. I was like, no, I had enough abuse from her. I did not want to deal with it anymore. And so with this guy being a scumbag, it kind of brought in like, oh man, yep, you know? So in a way I kind of felt sorry for Saint's dad, but Saint's dad did not need to be an abuser. He didn't need to go down that road and do that. So yeah, it was kind of sad because you would see these instances of Saint dealing with, you know, his father and father being drunk and everything like that, and him dealing with all that stuff, especially with he's young 20s, you know, in college, wants to do good for himself and loves his mother, wants to protect her, you know. So I definitely had empathy for Saint when it came to that situation, you know, because at the time of like me dealing with that see you next Tuesday, I also was dealing with my ex at the same time. So I'm being bombarded both times. I'm being bombarded at work, all day at work. I come home and I'm being, I'm being mentally abused by, you know, my ex. You know, I'm being mentally abused by him. So, and then him accusing me multiple times of cheating on him and just like so insecure of a man. I never cheat. I don't cheat on people. You know, I don't, no. So, anyways, yeah, that one kind of like brought in like some things for me that, you know, from my past, where I'm like, oh yeah, I know what that's like to work for a see you next Tuesday. I never really had like problems with guys, with like male bosses. I've never had any, like, I've been okay with male bosses, you know? Like, I even had a male boss who helped me when I was being sexually harassed when I was 18. I had a guy who was a maintenance guy that was working at, it was basically a retirement home. And he would come in to the kitchen, because I worked in the kitchen as a dietary aide, and I was 18 at the time, and he would come in, like, try to, like, flirt with me and all that stuff, and I try to be friendly. I always try to be friendly with everybody, but I don't know if maybe he was taking my flirting, not flirting, he was taking my talking to him as flirting, because I'm like, no, we're not flirting, dude. I could be friendly with you, but it doesn't mean I'm flirting with you. So I don't know if he did that, but I tried to, like, not engage with him when it came to, like, conversations and stuff. I would talk to him, but I also tried not to push for more. I was trying to do my job. Like, he's disturbing me while I'm doing the dishes. You know, I'm working with the dishwasher. It's hot in the kitchen. I'm trying to set up things for, like, the day after, you know, so that when the morning crew comes in, everything's all set up for them. And so it's like, I'm busy, you know, you're bugging me, leave me alone, you know. But I didn't want to be mean and say that. You know, now I'm a more of a direct person, where I'm like, look, I'm trying to do my job. Can you please leave me alone? I'm more direct like that now. But when I'm 18, you know, like fresh 18, you want to be nice. You want to be friendly with everybody. You don't want to rock the boat when it comes to your job. So he was, like, obviously flirting with me. And the one day he had went and said to me, oh, I bet you'd think I was hot shit if I was wearing my my black jeans and my Metallica t-shirt. I looked straight in his face and I laughed at him. It pissed him off and he walked away. So I felt threatened. I felt not safe. So I went to my boss, who's a male. He was a supervisor for the kitchen. And I had told him, I said, I'm not going to say his real name. I'll just say Will. I said, hey, Will, so-and-so, I can't remember the guy's name anymore. So-and-so was saying this to me. And Will's like, he said that? And I was like, yeah. And he goes, don't worry, Brandy, I'll take care of it. And I was like, thank you. And so I didn't see the maintenance guy ever again after that. And I was like, thank you, whoever it was that got rid of him, because I don't need to be sexually harassed at work. I just want to do my fucking job and go home, you know? That's it. I just want to do my job and go home. Stop fucking with me, you know? So I was glad for that. And then also the cook, she was an Italian lady, a very sweet, very, very sweet woman. She felt protective of me, to where at nighttime she's like, Brandy, I don't feel comfortable with you walking home by yourself at night. She goes, it's not safe. So she would drive me home, you know, because I didn't have a car. And so she would drive me home at night. She was going in that direction anyway. So she would just drop me at, like, across the street from this place that, it was called Dairy Mart. But it's essentially like a 7-Eleven. Now it's called something else. Now it's like a different name. And so, yeah, I know what it's like to have like sexual harassment. I know what it's like to deal with a boss who emotionally abuses you at work, and you're trying to suck it up because you don't want to go and quit. So I know all that stuff. So when it came to the character, even though I felt sorry for him for what he had gone through, because he had gotten those injuries and he didn't get any money for it, he also didn't need to go down the route of getting addicted to pain pills and drinking. He made those choices for himself and became an emotional abuser. He didn't need to do that to his wife or his child. So I liked Sane a lot. I'm kind of like rambling at this point. But I liked Sane a lot. Over time, he did like come off as like a dick at first, but the more time you see these characters being around each other, their sexual banter, talking with each other and everything, I thought was really sweet. I ended up like really liking the book because of that, because of the relationship, you know, their building up of their relationship, and they kind of brought out like the best in each other, and I really like that too. So that's why I ended up giving that 4.5 stars. I really enjoyed that one, and I will read will read more books from that author. So let me finish it off because I don't want this video to be super long. So I ended up watching 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, 8 movies, and also currently watching Squid Games with my eldest daughter. She wanted to watch it, and I was like, you know what? I think it's probably okay. It maybe have like some blood in it and stuff like that, but I don't think it's gonna have like too much in there. They did show a couple of guys' butts, and I was like, ew. And even she was like, ew, you know? So yeah, she was like, I didn't need to see that. And I'm like, yeah, I know. They could have totally like not had that in there. But there's a lot of deaths in there. A lot of deaths. But so far I'm liking, we've watched season 1 and season 2. And now we're on to season 3, and I heard season 3 sucked. So we're like, she already read the spoilers, and she's like, this is what happens, Mom. And I'm like, no. I'm like, no, why did they do that? Why did they do that? So, yeah, we're going to be angry watching season 3. But she wanted to watch it, and I'm like, I started like sitting down, and I'm like, oh, this is interesting. I didn't want to watch it when it was like popular at the time, when it was like trending, because I don't like watching stuff or reading stuff when it's trending. I'd rather wait till the people keep talking about it. So I'm watching that currently, and I'd say the first and second season were really good. I really enjoyed it. People were complaining about like there's a trans character in the second season. I didn't have a problem with the character. I did not have a problem with the character. I don't know how the Asian community is when it comes to transgendered people. Like, are they okay with accepting or not? I don't know. I don't know about that. But I thought it was interesting. You know, but I will say, like, I did clock the person, and I was like, oh, that's a trans woman. You know, yeah, I could tell right away it's a trans woman. But they said that they were still going through like the transition because they wanted to do more surgeries and stuff. So I think that's why they went into the game, to probably win enough money so they could do more surgical procedures and stuff like that. So, yeah. But I thought I liked the emotional range of the actor, you know, or I don't know if it's a real trans woman that's playing the part, or if it's just an actor putting a wig on playing a trans character. I don't know. I'd have to look up the cast and see if I could find that character, but I don't know, because I know there are some male actors that have played trans characters, so I know obviously they're not trans in real life, so I don't know if they did that or not. But anyways, the trans woman in there, I liked the actress, you know, I liked their the emotional range of their character. I thought they did really well. I did ultimately like season 2 as well. I thought it was a few stupid things. I'll just say that there was a few stupid things in it, and I was like, why did they do that? You know, but I still enjoyed it. It still was enjoyable to sit there and watch, you know, to like, oh my God, what's going to happen? So yeah, I did that. And I'll just say, like, the other movies I watched was Happy Gilmore 2, 5 out of 10. It was okay. I watched this movie called X. Didn't like it. Gave it a 4 out of 10. Then Pearl is the second one. That's more of a historical one. I gave that a 2 out of 10. Hated that one. Stupid. And then there was Maxine, which is the third movie in that trilogy. I thought that was the best one out of all the movies, even though it got I think it's got a lower rating than the other ones. But I did like it. It took place in like the 80s. It was interesting. But I did not like the ending. The ending was predictable. It disappointed me. The ending was such a disappointment. And then we had Freakier Friday. I saw in the theaters with my daughters. For the most part, I enjoyed it. There were a few things that I wasn't really a fan of, but for the most part, I enjoyed it. Then I went and watched Freaky Tales. I think that was on HBO, I think. I liked that one. That had Pedro Pascal in it. I'm not a huge fan of Pedro Pascal, but I will say I thought he was good in there. I think he's a good actor. I'm just getting tired of him being put in every freaking movie. But I did like that movie a lot. Especially like the ending part, I really enjoyed the ending. And it had like chapters to it, like chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, chapter 4. It was interesting. It was a really interesting movie. I enjoyed myself watching that. I liked that one a lot. And then The Dead Don't Die. I watched 38 minutes of that movie and turned it off. It was horrible. Not funny, really stupid. And also I felt like the author had some kind of like political agenda. No, fuck you. I don't like being lectured to. And then there was a movie called Your Monster, and I really enjoyed that one. I thought it was really well done. So I'd say my 3 favorites this month for those movies was Your Monster would definitely be number 1. Number 2, I would say, would be Freaky Tales. And number 3 would be Freakier Friday. So it's funny, I watched Freaky Tales and Freakier Friday. So both with freak in the title. So yeah, those ones there. I watched, and like I said, I'm watching Squid Game currently, Squid Games. I do like that it's English dubbed. It makes it easier to kind of like go through, because when something's like subtitled, not everybody can kind of get through a show when it's subtitled, you know, because you're like trying to pay attention to the screen, and then, you know, with like the action that's going on, and then down below you're trying to read, you know, what they're saying. So I do like it when they English dub it, you know, even though obviously the way they speak is not going to match English speech, obviously. But I will say, like, I believe Mandarin, or the whatever the most popular language is in like Asian, you know, which I think is Mandarin, it's like these symbols. I like that stuff. It's such an interesting way of writing, and I believe all of the symbols are words. I think. I'm not truly 100% sure about that, but I believe that's what it is, because that's what I was talking to my daughter about. I'm like I think all the symbols are words. Like, this is one word, this is another word. I think that's what it is. It's interesting though, but I do like I do appreciate, I'll say appreciate, not appropriate. I do appreciate Asian culture. I like a lot of Asian culture. I love like different places, like it's beautiful. They've such, you know, beautiful landscapes and all this stuff, different stuff. I love like all of these little things, like their lanterns, and that's such beautiful, you know, stuff. And I'm like, when I was younger, I loved geishas too. Geishas were like, I like how they dressed, you know, and then like I like a lot of the sliding doors and everything. Like, it's such an interesting, like, there's different interesting cultures when it comes to Asian cultures. There's different ones. And, you know, you got Korean, you got, you know, Chinese, you got, you know, Japanese, you know, all this different stuff. You got all different cultures, and I appreciate, you know, I appreciate the culture. And I like a lot of the anime that comes from it too. I like anime. I like, you know, my daughters love anime. My daughters love, you know, they love the Sanrio characters. My eldest loves watching different anime shows and stuff like that. Like, I pay for Crunchyroll, and that's like a bunch of anime shows and stuff. She watches stuff on there. And then she loves manga, so she definitely like loves a lot of like different Asian media, you know, different stuff like that. She likes all that stuff. She very much likes a lot of that stuff. So it doesn't shock me that she wanted to watch Squid Games and check it out. I believe it is a Korean show. I believe so. It is a Korean show. But yeah, I like all that stuff. It is interesting. And I heard like there was that one guy, I think his name was Johnny Somali or whatever it is, I was hearing about, where he was going over to like these different countries and stuff and just fucking with these people. I'm like, you know, you give Americans a bad name by being a fucking dick and messing with these people. Leave these people alone. You know, you're going there as a tourist. You need to behave like you're supposed to. If you go to another country, you're American, you go to another country, you need to abide by what their culture is, by what their laws are. You don't just go and just do stupid shit. Come on. You make the rest of us look bad. So, that asshole got arrested, and I'm like, hasta la vista, baby. Bye-bye. You know, that's what you get for being dumb. Like, you know, there's certain countries that I would never go to because I don't like the laws there when it comes to, like, say, Dubai and different things like that. I don't like their laws when it comes to women and all this different stuff. No, I would never go to those countries because I don't like their laws. Because a lot of them are where they make the women subservient. No. No, I'm an American woman. I will never go to any of those countries where I'm going to be treated as a second-class citizen. No, thank you. So, yeah. Anyways, I did not want this one to be too long, and it's already long. But the other one was longer than this, so I'll just say that. It was longer than this. But yeah, that's what I basically read and watched this month. We're going to, you know, like I said, we're going to continue on with season 3, even though we know it's going to be bad. We want to watch it anyway. You know, her and I want to watch it anyway, just to be done with it. I have not started with Wednesday season 2 yet. I'm waiting for the other episodes to come out because friggin' Netflix gives you 4 episodes and then you got to wait for the other 4 episodes. And I'm like, no, forget that. Forget that noise. I'll just binge it when the other half of the episodes come out. So my daughters, I believe my eldest, I think she said she watched the 2 episodes, but she didn't watch the other 2 yet. And my youngest that likes Wednesday too, she went and watched all 4 episodes. So I'm waiting for, I think it's September 2nd, the second half of the Wednesday season 2 is coming out. So I'd rather just binge it then. So I'll probably binge that for September. So that'll probably be something I talk about in September, my September wrap up. There's also other stuff that I need to watch too. I will see what I'm in the mood for and kind of go from there. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. Let me know, what did you watch this month that you enjoyed? What did you go and read this month that you were a fan of? Like maybe what was your favorite book this month? Let me know down in the comment section. But yeah, that's it for this video here. Have yourselves a good day. Take care of yourselves, be kind to each other, and I'll see you all on the next video. All right, bye.